Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. Thanks for listening. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here, and today I am giving you a replay. So over the past week, I did a live Q&A in the Garage Gym Athlete community. So it was a community-only Q&A. I got to answer some questions and cover the new cycle. So if you didn't know, new cycle starts today. So you can sign up right now. Anytime this week is a great time to go to garagegymathlete.com and sign up for your free trial. We do have the free trial, so you can test the workouts if you've never done them before, or you're a little concerned about it. So you do the free trial. If you don't like it, cancel. You don't have to continue training with us. If you do like it, stick around and become the fittest, best version of yourself. So what I did in the Q&A is I went over each track. We have the hard to kill track, shred track, and Jerred track, all that kind of stuff. And then I also went over, the focus of each one of these, each track. So a little bit more detail. So what happens is I program a track, we have some other coaches program a track, and they give me what's called a cycle brief. So I go over those real quick and then also answer questions on the fly. I did my best to read the question out loud, right? Because I knew we would be playing this as a podcast. So if I didn't do it 100% of the time, the best of my ability, I did it. So I am also interjecting and answering member questions as people were on live. So you'll see that, or you'll hear that in the podcast. So a little bit different than normal. But I wanted everyone out there, whether you didn't catch the live in the community yet, you get to hear it on the podcast if you're already one of our athletes, or if you're thinking about becoming one of our athletes, this is a great opportunity to support what we're doing, support the podcast, support all the coaches that are on the team, and just support us moving forward. So if you want to be a part of it, what concurrent training really is, now is the time to join. It's the best time to become a part of Garage Gym Athlete. But I will quit rambling on here and let you dive into what is kind of our new cycle brief and Q&A with a community. Here we go. So this is going to be a bit more informal than what we typically do. In the past, if you've been around for a while, we do like a webinar and I have all these slides and everything like that. That's not the purpose of today's kind of Q&A and going over the new cycles. I'm going to go over the new cycles. I'm going to share the PDF that some of you may have seen. Maybe you haven't. I'll also throw the link in the chat. But we're going to go over kind of what the new cycles look like, things that you should consider. And then the big part of this is I really want to be able to ask or be able to answer any questions that you might have. So I have my chat open. If you have any questions at all, really anything Garage Gym Athlete related, I'm an open book. Anything you want to talk about, whether it's just new cycle, your specific situation, anything that you should consider, nutritional questions, hydration, events, like whatever you have, let me know. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go over the new cycles. So if you haven't seen it yet, I'll definitely make sure that you have a link to the PDF I'm about to open. But ultimately, what we started doing is kind of what I used to brief you on in the webinars. We just added to the sample programming, so you have a better idea of, what each track is going to be doing. So big picture, every track is concurrent training. I like to make sure that people know that, right? Everything that we do at Garage Gym Athlete is concurrent training. It's just in different amounts and different proportions. So our hard to kill track is what we call our balanced track. So we try to balance everything across the 13 different areas that we train. We just try to balance it to the best of our ability over every 30 days. And then the shred track takes the same ideas, the same areas of training, but then we're going to have more of a balance towards body composition and athleticism, specifically for this track. And then Endure is going to have more of, it's still concurrent training, still going to have strength, still going to have endurance training, but then there's going to be more of an endurance slant right there. And then same with strength. We're still going to do some conditioning. We're still going to do that stuff, but we're going to primarily focus on strength. And so that's how concurrent training works here at Garage Gym Athlete. So now let's dive in to actually looking at the programming. So I will share my screen, which I've never done before on in Circle before. So let's dive into it. I'm not sure if you can, you can still see me there in the top right corner. Let's see, I was on the wrong page there. So this is the new, this is the programming. So what we do, we give you a full week of each cycle so you can kind of dive in. But the main thing I'm going to be focusing on is these pages right here. So this is the hard to kill track. I'll go over it first. The major this cycle is going to be muscle endurance and strength, and then the minor is balance. The minor is kind of always balance, as I was talking about earlier with how hard to kill works. So the main focus is going to be muscle endurance and strength with a body geo base behind it. So if you're wondering what body geo is, if you've been around for a deload cycle, that's what we do during our deload weeks. We do a lot of zone 2, and then we do body geometry work. So body geometry work is making sure that we're working on different muscle contractions. And then it's also making sure, or it's also focused on supersets, a lot of different supersets. And it's a little bit more body comp focused. And then there'll be metcons. So speed, strength, endurance work alternated in there to balance out the work done during those days, major focus days. One major focus day is strength with a balance body geo theme, and the other major day is more of that should be Prilipin's chart type of strength work. So again, you can always look and be like, okay, what exactly does that look like? But I like to just put it in the most simple terms I can as an athlete looking at this, like kind of what can you expect, right? What can you expect when you see all this? Well, the main thing that you need to realize is that there's going to be more of a muscular endurance focus. So we will be doing things that hurt a little bit more, burn in some of the lifts. But then we're going to have alternating between the strength. So we're going to have some Prilipin's chart stuff, which means we will be lifting heavy, not like max, but there will be a heavy day. But then we're also going to have some of that body geometry to kind of balance things out. And then across, we're going to be doing a lot more metabolic conditioning, which is going to be more mixed modal training. We've been doing a lot more, I'd say endurance. There's been a lot of runs, 800s, those kind of things. There's been more of that kind of stuff focused and hard to kill. And we're going to be kind of moving away from that, going back to a lot of mixed modal. So how I like to describe hard to kill track when we do this style of a cycle is it's more, you got to think like getting ready for anything, like the military athlete here or Spartan race, somebody who just needs to be able to utilize their body in a lot of different spaces, a lot of different activities. That's what hard to kill is going to focus on this next cycle. So I'll keep moving along here. If you do have any questions, feel free to throw it in the chat. I click back over every once in a while, check it out. And then if you actually look into, what we're doing, what it looks like, you can dive in further and be like, would I like this? So this is more of the body geo stuff right here. You can see in that session. And then the second day, you can see that we move to a little bit more muscular endurance stuff. And then back to a little bit more Prilipin's chart stuff. So again, got some supersets in there, but weights are going up. We're at 70% on the push press right there. So you can just see how these things kind of work. So if you really want to dive in, that's how you look at it. Every single one page is going to have the elements in there. Then it's going to have, the warm up, and then it'll show you the session work. And then this is where we're getting into some of the mixed modal capacities that I was talking about, really getting you ready for anything and everything. And it has like a heart rate designation in there too. So that'll be, VD said, can you explain why the shred track is the best track we offer? Absolutely. So shred, that's next. So VD programs shred. And honestly, VD is an amazing programmer, amazing human being. So this is what is the focus for shred. So strength, endurance, and endurance strength. So it says we're mixing big lifts like back squat, box squat, bench press, and deadlifts with tempo lifting and supersets to really up the intensity. Tempo lifting adds control, breaking down each rep into key phases, while supersets maximize your workout time. Isolateral exercises keep things balanced, and smart conditioning targets muscles you haven't hit in your main lifts. Metcons mostly use body weight for a well-rounded athletic boost. Bring your A game. This cycle is built to challenge and energize you. So VD, each coach who programs the track writes the track brief. That's what this is. And VD wrote that. And after I read his track brief, I started to get FOMO. So I don't normally experience that. I can just kind of know what I want to do. But this is such a well-balanced track here, just from everything that he said, because we're still going to be hitting all of the big lifts, which I like to see. I just think that that's good overall. And then he specifically mentions that we're going to be doing tempo. So he mentions tempo adds control. So tempo lifting is just amazing for you in strength training for a lot of reasons. It does add control. It adds more time under tension. It's a safer way to lift if you're doing it correctly. You're not like, if you're actually able to keep up with the tempos, that's the biggest thing with tempo training is if the tempo is 2-2-2-2-2 or whatever, you don't want to shorten those or lengthen them or whatever. You want to make sure that you're actually doing the tempo. So if the weight's too heavy, you can, adjust that, but you want to keep with the tempo. Keeping with the tempo is always more important than keeping with the weight. So anyway, I love that tempo's in there. I love tempo lifting. I also hate tempo lifting. It's kind of like the Airdyne. Like I know it's good for me, but it also really sucks. And then also he throws in there isolateral exercises to keep things balanced. Like that's huge for injury prevention. So when you're doing, unilateral stuff, isolateral, like it's just going to injury proof you. And then the Metcons primarily being body weight. Again, I love body weight Metcons because you can throw in like this super high level of intensity and know that your chance of injury or like redlining is very low because, I mean, you could redline your heart rate, but I'm talking about like a dangerous redline. Not going to happen because it's just your body weight. You can always have a governor there. Your body recovers really fast from just body weight type Metcons. So to answer VD's question, Shred is a phenomenal track. And this one's looking really good. And to be honest, I don't know which track I'm going to be on yet. Typically I took a cycle off. If anybody's like listening to the podcast, I took a cycle off and we've just been running and doing calisthenics. I put that stuff on the YouTube channel and everything else. But now I'm going to do probably the running that I've been doing plus add a track. And that's what I'm going to do. And so it's between Shred and Hard to Kill right now for me. So Daniel has a question. He says, love the harder to kill program. How is concurrent training compared to a split day cycle of training? Monday push, Tuesday pull. I noticed on the last track, you may see some type of leg work a few times in the week. Is that because there is an expectation of adaptation, trying to understand the volume of work capacity per muscle group? Yeah, that's a great question, Daniel. So how we focus on it is we don't necessarily focus on muscle group, but we're aware of the volume that's going into, hey, I did leg stuff 3 days in a row. So normally you're right. We're either trying to force an adaptation, which will happen if you put in enough time and effort, but also they might be focusing on them in different ways. So it could be, let's say, for instance, we did hit Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, some sort of leg movement. It would never be our full on focus. It'd never be our full on focus to be like, today is just leg day, leg day, leg day. It's normally leg involvement. So it might be muscular endurance legs on Monday, and then Wednesday could be more of a max effort. And this kind of comes from the idea, moving away from bodybuilding, where they have more of a Monday push, Tuesday pull type that you're talking about. And this is more taken from like West Side Barbell. So more of the powerlifting style. So if you're familiar with Louis Simmons, West Side Barbell, they typically have like a dynamic effort day and a max effort day. And again, we're hitting the same muscle groups all the time. So we know the methodology works, but you will see a lot more frequency. And again, we're trying to cover 13 areas every 30 days on the Hard to Kill track. So there will be some overlap, but it's always overlap again on a more performance side and not body composition side. And VD just said to you, hey, you'd be happy on the Shred track. And that's 100% true. Like if you are looking for more of a split that's like Yeah, I want to do Monday push, Tuesday pull, all those kind of things. Lower body shred is definitely going to be the track for you because it just follows that more traditional split, but also throwing in all the other concurrent training stuff that we love to do. So definitely check out the shred track. Hard to kill is really more of a performance based track, and we're going to hit that in a lot of different ways. All right, and you can dive in. I'm not going to cover every single one like day by day, but if you do want to look at these, definitely go here. I'm going to go ahead and throw this link in the chat, so everyone has it. If you haven't downloaded it already, it was available since this past Friday. But if you want to open it up on your own and start looking at it, you can go ahead and do that. All right, now we get down to the endure track. So the major is endurance, minor is interval training. So the endure track will be concentrating on long and short sessions while maintaining intensity and building resiliency. Get ready to sweat. So this is Marco's track. So the strength work for the cycle will be focused on 1-to-1 work to rest ratio sessions aimed to build on the foundation established on the previous cycle and maintain a solid muscle tone needed to perform well endurance training events and life. So one thing to note from what Marco's saying there is obviously there's going to be more endurance focus on this track, but even the strength work is going to be focused. Even the strength work is going to have more of an endurance focus. So it's going to be, work to rest ratios are going to be shorter in duration. You're going to have to learn muscle endurance, how to cope with lack of rest, lack of oxygen, those kind of things. But this really is, GPP at a really high level. So GPP is general physical preparedness. That's what the endure track is going to do this cycle. So interval training, there's really not a better way to get really fit really fast than interval training. So there's a lot of that in this cycle. And then overall, just strength training in and of itself can be a great endurance tool. And that's how it's been programmed over this cycle. And so if you are looking to, the most feared track at GGA, Kyle says, there's a lot of pain on the endure track. And sometimes like it might be like if you have something additional that you want to do, like a longer run or a longer race or something like that, like something I might be doing in the near future, I might want to be on the endure track, for let's say 3 days a week because there's only 4 days, and maybe I run all the other days just to get all the running volume that I would need to get in. Like if you're doing like a much longer race. So anyway, that's what you would have to think about with the endure track. It is a difficult track, but it will get you really fit really fast just with how it's programmed. And then if you want to dive in, look into it further, absolutely dig into these days. I already provided the link. You can jump in a little bit more. And after I finish going over these, I'm going to be talking a little bit about like kind of our daily over decades challenge that we're going to be doing this cycle. So stick around for that, even if you have this, the PDF. So strength endurance will be the major, and the minors will be strength speed. So we have wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. So how the waves work, waves are 4 weeks. So this is 4 weeks, 8 weeks, then that's 12 weeks. So so you can see how it progresses over the entire cycle. So this cycle brings back the very successful Accelerate program. You will do an assortment of primary lifts and EMOMs of those lifts. There will be regular 15, 30-minute strength accessory circuits. So Accelerate was truly our very first cycle at Garage Gym Athlete. And so what you get with Accelerate is typically you're working through some major lifts, and then you do a conditioning session that's either 15 or 30 minutes. And these conditioning sessions are all geared towards that main lift. So let's say I did, squat today. So I lift heavy squats. That's how I start the day. That's my opening session. Then I'm going to do a 15-minute conditioning session, but it's really more accessory work. So it's a little bit of both. Like it's meant to be like back-to-back superset style to get your heart rate elevated, keep you somewhat conditioned, but it's not like a Metcon. It's not like a CrossFit workout. So if I were to do squats, then my 15-minute conditioning / accessory work session would look like is I will have 4 movements. And in those 4 movements, I would do like a lunge, and then I would do, maybe squats with a vest. Then I'd maybe do a burpee at the end, something like that. But it's all going to be geared towards building up whatever the main lift was. So if it's a push movement for the day, then we're going to have push movement accessory work / conditioning. And then same with the pull. If it's a pull movement for the day, our accessory work is going to be pull movement and / conditioning. And so everything, going back to kind of Daniel's question, like if you want to focus in one area, get really strong and build some muscle, strength is another great place to look. So it's different than shred. Is there'll be less conditioning than there will be on shred. There won't really be that many metcons. They're more conditioning accessory work is what I call it. So if you're looking to hey, I want to maintain some conditioning, build a little bit of GPP, but I really want to get strong and build some muscle. That's the strength track this cycle. Definitely something that you want to check out. Now the other, and again, you can dive in here if you want to look at them further. Other tracks, I just like for people to know what they are and how they break down. I don't like to cover them as much because 3-block just mimics hard to kill, but we cut out the unnecessary pieces. So if you are short on time, we have the 3-block. It's only 30-minute sessions, follows hard to kill. No gear track. So no gear track is exactly as it says. We mix up, all the different energy systems. We're doing body weight stuff, throwing in some conditioning. But if you are in a area of your life where, maybe you just need some body weight only stuff or, some conditioning, no gear track. It doesn't mean no gear track is easy, but if you have been following the podcast or YouTube channel, I was injured, and then coming off that injury, I just kept, every time I would lift heavy, I felt like I was getting injured again. So I was like, I'm going to go all calisthenics for a cycle. And now I'm feeling great. So all I did was calisthenics and run for really the last 12, 14 weeks. And I just started adding in some barbell stuff. I did some heavy squats yesterday, and I'm just feeling so much better. Sometimes your body just needs that. Sometimes you just need a break from the barbell, but you still want to train hard. And that's why I love bodyweight stuff, because you can still train hard, but you don't have to break your body down in the process. So no gear, definitely a consideration. And then bare bones. So bare bones, it's a balanced strength and conditioning track. It uses a single kettlebell, bodyweight movements, and some bands. So this is Joe's other track that he put together, and really it was based off of something that he was doing. I think this was mostly last year. It's kind of no gear track, if you will. And it's kind of like the no gear track, but with gear, if that makes sense. It's super stripped down. If you just want to use some bands and kettlebell and do some calisthenics, it's like if we just could add a little bit to the no gear track, but we wanted to keep the no gear track truly no gear. That way, if you are traveling, whatever, the expectation is zero gear, just do the no gear track. But bare bones is just one step above that. So they're similar in nature of how they train and how they're doing concurrent training. But again, if you're in a cycle or time period of life where you're I just don't think I can do all the things, I want to take a break from the barbell, but I don't want to do calisthenics only. I still want to get some hypertrophy in there. I still want to, move my body and, try and gain some strength. Then the kettlebell and body weight and bands are the best place to do it. Really, I've done some of this training myself. Bands are a great way to add hypertrophy without having to add significant loads. So muscle growth without having to have a heavy barbell load. So again, keeping you super safe. Kettlebell is one of the most amazing implements out there. The more I learn about it, the more I use one. And I've been using one for over a decade, 2 decades. I mean, it's been a long time where I at least had kettlebell in my training of some sort. It's just such an amazing implement, because things that can be lost if you're not careful, especially as you age, is just getting slower. And I'm not talking about slower and running. I'm talking about fast twitch muscle fibers. Those start to go as you age. And so one thing you want to make sure that you're always training is jumping, sprinting. And then if you can't always do those things, that's why the kettlebell is so awesome, because you're not having to do full on Olympic lifting, which can come with, there's a lot of skill work involved with that. You can do just kettlebell work. If you're doing kettlebell snatches, you're doing kettlebell swings, kettlebell cleans, any of those things, you're working on being explosive. You're operating, or you're exercising type 2 muscle fibers, fast twitch muscle fibers. And so you're getting a lot of that athletic style training, even on the bare bones track. So it's a really solid track overall, and something that you should definitely consider. I'm a huge fan of the track and what Joe has put together there. Chris says bodyweight training deloads really hit different sometimes. They truly do. Like I feel like right now, I feel like so ready to go. Like I took, just doing calisthenics, but I feel like very ready for the next training cycle. And I think, part of that's mentally too. I feel mentally like supercharged, like ready to tackle this next cycle. And I think that it's really awesome. Jeffrey has a question. He says the first paragraph of Bare Bones says only a single kettlebell, but the last sentence says nothing but a barbell. Will you clarify? I have to look and see if Joe started adding in the barbell. Originally, it's just supposed to be a kettlebell. So that could just be a mistake on our end, but I'll look into it more, Jeffrey, to see if he's like throwing in like single kettlebell here or single barbell, but it really should just be kettlebell bodyweight movements and bands. So that's what it should be. And I'll make sure that there's no error there, miscommunication. But thanks for catching that. All right, so everyone has a link to this track. Now I want to talk about some other stuff that we're doing. I'm going to stop sharing this screen. So we're calling this next cycle our Daily Over Decades cycle. So a lot of you are familiar with our Daily Over Decades challenge we did last year. But I want to show you kind of what our focus is and really what we want our focus to be on, like moving forward, just at Garage Gym Athlete. So I'm going to share another tab here. Let's see. So if you go to dailyoverdecades.com, you'll be able to see, get out of here. You'll be able to see this page right here. And this was our original Daily Over Decades challenge. People still sign up for it, but ultimately we were really only doing it for last year. And what we did was we had a 300 version and a 200 version where you would do 300 training sessions in a year. And then level 2 would be you do 300 training sessions in a year, but you also do 300 minutes per week. And then the top tier, level 3, would be you do all of level 2, but then you also do greater than 300 calories per session. And then the 200 version was the same, but everything was just 200 of that. So what we're doing over this next cycle, we're not going to put in the number of training sessions, like you have to hit so many training sessions in the training cycle. But what we want to focus on is 300 minutes per week and 300 calories per session just throughout this next training cycle. Because I feel like the biggest problem with this challenge, with how many people signed up to how many people actually finished, is just the length. And I get it. Like a year is a very long time. And so this is going to be our focus in Q4. So the last quarter here, when we kick off our new training cycle, it's going to be all about this daily over decades mentality. So not necessarily trying to get a certain number of training sessions, but focusing on getting 300 minutes per week and 300 calories per session, or 200 minutes per week and 200 calories per session. You can kind of pick where you're at. Because realistically, 300 minutes per week can be difficult. You normally have to do 5 or 6 training sessions to get that. And we program 4, and then the 5th day is Meet Yourself Saturday. So if you're doing all of them, you're probably fine. But for some people, it's just not, maybe you're not doing Meet Yourself Saturday. Maybe you're only hitting 4 days a week. So that's why we have the 200 option as well. And then you're going to have 200 calories per session. So what we'll do is we'll start tracking this in the community over this next cycle. We'll be doing weekly posts, just like we did when we were inside the Facebook group. So I'll come in. I don't need to share the screen anymore. I'll come into the circle community. We'll just be like, hey, check in for Daily Over Decades Challenge for this cycle. Where you at? You can report there. We'll hold you accountable. You can report how many minutes you've trained, and all those kind of things. How many calories per session were you hitting? And then we're going to track that over this next quarter. And we're not going to do like last time we did like a big giveaway, like we gave away a rower and all this other stuff. That's not the point of this one. This is just more community involvement. So you're not racing for anything. You're not competing for anything other than a better version of yourself at the end of the quarter. So at the end of the quarter, you will have, you'll be fitter, right? Like that's the goal. That's what we want for you ultimately. And that's what we're going to be focused on, over this next quarter. So if you want to be a part of that, more announcements are going to be, flowing out next week here in the circle group. That's where we're at right now. So you'll be able to see more of that as the challenge unravels. Something I definitely enjoyed. Like, I think I'm probably hitting that right now because I'm training pretty much 6 or 7 days a week. So I'm doing it, but I really enjoyed doing the 300 challenge last year. And just show of hands, anybody who's here live, who here got one of the 300 or 200 finisher challenge shirts that we gave out from the 2022 challenge? Be really interested to see, who here finished the entire annual challenge last year, because it was no easy feat. And we didn't send out as many of those shirts as I thought that we would. But maybe we can do it for a quarter. Maybe we can just do it for 1 quarter, and we can focus on much smaller goals, because that's my real goal for everybody. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we did a rower. I think we did a rower and something else. I remember we had like a couple different versions, and we sent all those things out towards the beginning of this year after it was completed. Looks like Nicole, Derek got it. Keith, if you didn't get a shirt, man, if anyone finished and you didn't get the shirt, I remember, if I remember correctly, we had like a bunch of email problems at the beginning of this year. It was super frustrating. We basically couldn't communicate with the community for a while. We tried to post things in Facebook, but like didn't work. And so anyway, we had a challenging time at the beginning of this year communicating with everyone. So if you didn't get the shirt, reach out to us. I want to make sure that you get the shirt. We'll send you one. It's a really cool shirt that we put together. So anyway, we'll definitely get that to you. So that's the main focus this year. Another thing that we have coming out is going to be the track shirts. So we're going to have, let me see if I can get this pulled up. One second. While that's pulling up, we have some new, what I've always wanted were like logos for the different tracks. And so let me see if I can, just don't know if I can actually share this. Oh, it looks like I can. Cool. All right. This will be the last thing I go over, and then we can get out of here. But one thing that I always wanted was, like I said, a logo for each track and kind of an explanation behind the logo. And it's just the main 4: endure, hard to kill, shred, and strength. So let me share it here. So these will be available for purchase next week if you want a track shirt. And who knows, maybe if you finish the quarter challenge for Daily Over Decades, maybe we'll send you one anyway. But here, where is it at? There it is. There we go. So this is the Endure track. Each one has an explanation. Okay, so that's a pterodactyl. Yeah, it's a pterodactyl skeleton. So it's like, why the hell would we have a pterodactyl for the Endure track? Well, the reason behind it is I actually just read an article not too long ago. It was a pterodactyl, like a member of the pterodactyl family. They're doing like more research on them, and they are pretty confident that when they could get into flight, when they were flying, the large ones, they could go 7,000 to 8,000 miles without stopping. So I thought, when I read that, I read this really like interesting article about like how many calories they burned and all this stuff, and how they could go nonstop for 7,000 to 8,000 miles. And I was like, I can't think of a better representation of, the Endure track than that, So I think overall, that is what the Endure track logo is going to be. The next one, this is hard to kill. This one comes with like more of a personal story. So the main reason I ever even started using the term hard to kill, and I have some content talking about this like way back in the day, but the reason I started using it is when I was in the Air Force. I was in Air Force Special Operations Command at the end of my career, and I got to meet and work with special operation surgical teams. So these special operation surgical teams are surgical teams that deploy as far forward as you can in a combat zone. So if you think about like, a trauma surgeon or whatever, typically you'd have to go back. If you got like a massive injury, you'd have to go back to like a large base to get trauma care. And so what they added, or what they created, were these special operations surgical teams. And these special operations surgical teams would deploy really far forward. And if someone got hurt or shot or whatever, they would only have to come back, minimally to get operated on and get fixed. And what they found was this like dramatically increased the survivability of, our personnel in combat, which is cool. And their logo is a red hand that looks very similar to this. I didn't like straight up steal it, but I stole the idea. And the reason is because when they were testing these special operations surgical teams, they had been operating a lot of guys, saved a lot of lives. And then, this guy finally had to take a break, and he put his hand on the wall, and then he took his hand off the wall after he like rested for a minute. And it was just a bloody hand on the wall, which, kind of sounds crazy. But when I was in the Air Force, I talked to one of the original surgeons who had operated on, a lot of different soldiers. And he was talking about how he at first he couldn't put it into words, because he had come from trauma surgery in the civilian world. And in the civilian world, he'd be like, hey, people, the smallest thing happens to them, it's hard to keep them alive on the table. But he's talking about people who are significantly overweight, very unhealthy, metabolically unhealthy, no fitness level, whatever. He's like, it is very hard to keep people alive who came in with like some of the most minor, like a minor stab wound or like whatever. And he was talking about how our airmen and our soldiers were the exact opposite. And so he was describing to me, he's like, they're so healthy and they're so fit. He's like, they can come in with some of the most horrific injuries I've ever seen, but they're still alive, and I can still patch them up, and I can still get them back to, back to their families. And in that conversation, he used the term, they are just hard to kill. And he was talking about specifically because they are so fit, because they've taken such good care of their bodies, and they're so awesome, they're just hard to kill. And when he said that to me back then, I was like, that's amazing. He's basically comparing your fitness level to, and your grit to the ability to keep you alive, like in actual trauma situations. And so that's why I started using the hard to kill term many, 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 many years ago. So anyway, that's why I used it. That's why that's going to be the hard to kill logo. So it's kind of a long story, but ultimately why I did that. Yeah, it looks like the Wilson hand there. This is Jerred. He's got this is one of our main GGA logos. It's the Concurrent training logo. If you didn't see, it's in all of them. The Concurrent training logo is like hidden in there, hidden in the finger there, and then it's straight on the forehead of Jerred. Just a really cool skeleton overall, but also just, if you're looking to shred down and be an athlete, it was just such an awesome, logo that we wanted to select there. And then lastly, the strength. Why is it a triangle? Typically, we have the concurrent training symbol there in the center. But if you know anything about our training methodology, specific with strength, we follow the three main methods to get a human being stronger. And so those three methods are going to be the sub-max effort method, the max effort method, and the dynamic effort method, making the triangle of strength training. So if you follow those three methods, you'll be a powerful human being, you'll be a strong human being, and you'll be a muscular human being. And so that's why the strength training, the strength track has the triangular logo there. So, yep, another great reason for why the shred track is the best. I'll stop sharing my screen, but those are coming out next week, available if you want to grab one, and that'll basically be everything there. All right, so I'll open it up for any additional questions. I know I answered a couple questions while we were live. But I can hang out a few minutes. If anyone has any questions, anything you want to ask at all about really anything, I'll hang out. But that's basically everything that I had to cover for the new training tracks. We're starting very soon, so get your track changes in. If you have any questions about that, how to submit track changes or anything like that, let me know. But I'm really looking forward to me personally getting back onto the training and not just doing calisthenics and running like I have been for the last while. So Kyle says, my PR shirts are worn out, 3 to 4 years old. Any thoughts on revitalizing the PR shirts for folks who have previously earned them but have continued to PR, or can I just buy one? Yeah, so We give you one for free. Yeah, we've run into this before. We give you one for free, and then if you want to replace it, you absolutely can purchase a replacement. So you could just reach out to you could reach out to support at Garage Gym Athlete. You can email me, Jerred at into3fitness.com. Doesn't matter. However you want to get in contact with us, we'll make sure that you have the link and the ability to purchase the PR shirt, Kyle. So good question, man, and we'll get you one for sure. Nick says, for strength track, do we need to add any extra conditioning or zone 2 work, or is it all encompassing? So I would say it depends on what your goal is. Like there will be conditioning in there. And so you'll see, again, like I said, the accessory work will have some conditioning. So if you're looking for like GPP level of conditioning, then you're going to be fine. But if you want a higher level base of conditioning, yeah, add in some zone 2 once or twice a week. Again, we do Meet Yourself Saturdays on Saturday. If you want to skip that for a 60 to 90-minute run, plus everything you do on the strength track, like you'd be good to go. So if you did add anything, it'd be minimal. That's probably all I would add if I was doing the strength track and I wanted some conditioning. Is I would just, instead of Meet Yourself Saturday, I would just throw in like a longer monostructural, like run, row, something like that. Chris, recommendation for a track if I'm looking to focus on posterior chain strength and power in the next few months. I would say strength track. I mean, VD's here. Maybe he can talk more about the posterior chain focus. I know he's going to have more of a split, but the only reason I recommend strength track right off the bat is because there will be like a pull posterior chain focus, right? And then there's going to be accessory work right after that, building around that. So that will have the most focused strength work on an area like what you're talking about, like specifically posterior chain, without it being like hypertrophy. So I would say strength track for sure. Jonathan says, is killing comfort ace still a thing? I think that had about 2 years with the green dots at some point. Yes, that's still a thing. So we'll throw that out in the community here in probably next week or two and let people submit. We normally send out an email, but again, we had some massive trouble this year. To be honest, maybe we haven't even fully like fixed that problem with being able to communicate with people, but we typically send that out once per cycle. And then people are able to get those patches. So we'll make sure that it's announced in the circle group. That's why we're trying to put everything in the circle group now. So Daniel says, so shred sounds great, but just to confirm with some of the goals for the next year, trying to do a Spartan race, maybe some type of CrossFit event, and a few 10K races, shred or H2K. So I think you'd be fine on shred. My only question back would be, how long is that Spartan race? Are we talking about a beast, or is it the shorter distances? Because if it's a CrossFit event, the CrossFit event makes me want to think that you should do more of H2K this cycle. Yeah, like I think between the CrossFit event and the Spartan race, I'm going to say you're going to want to be on H2K. Few 10K races, yeah, you might want to add in, just like I was talking about earlier with Nick, maybe add in a zone 2 run on Saturday or Sunday or something like that for the 10K race prep. But given your exact goals there, I'm going to probably lean towards hard to kill. Kyle can confirm strength track will for sure make you strong. Yeah, awesome, Daniel. Glad you like the QA sessions. We definitely want to do more of these things. I definitely want to be diving into the community more over this next quarter. So you're going to see my face a lot. I'll probably just do a bunch of random live streams too. I want to dive in a lot more than I have over the last, quarter or two. All right. VD says shred is good, but for Spartan might want H2K. Yeah, I agree with that. There's not a lot of endurance on there. So any official GGA events coming up for 2024? We are trying to put that together now. I'm like at a 90% doing an event with Mark Bishop. I think Mark was on here. I think I saw him. I gotta clear a few more dates, but yeah, now that I'm healthy again and feeling good, I honestly want 2024 to be like a year of events. Like I want to do maybe at least one per quarter, if not more. Like I want to sign up for a bunch of stuff. So we'll try to get that information out there. and that way you just know what's going on. But I definitely want to do a lot of events in 2024 now that I'm healthy again, and I'll make sure that the community knows about them. Who programs Strength Track? Joe programs the Strength Track. Is the Decades website ready to register? No, not yet. So that was our previous for the last challenge. So we will be switching things up, changing it to more of a quarter focus, and that'll be next week. Awesome. I think that may do it. If there are any other questions, let me know. So glad you all could attend. What a great turnout we had. This will be obviously recorded, and it's going to be in the group forever. What am I reading right now? Let me see. I actually just opened up a book that I really enjoy. It's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. This is more of a mindset book. So it's not, necessarily fitness related. Let me see if I have any other fitness books that I've been covering. No, I haven't been reading any much health and fitness books lately. Built to Move is the one I finished most recently by Kelly Starrett and Juliet Starrett, and then Outlive, and I did a review on that one. But I've been diving into a lot of leadership books and mindset books. Those are kind of my favorite. Revisiting some things that I've read before, like Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. I'm sure you've all heard of that. Like I'm rereading that one. I'm normally reading or rereading a couple books at a time. But the ones that are currently open on Audible for me are Big Leap, Extreme Ownership, and the ones that I just finished were Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday, and then I finished Built to Move and Outlive. So all great books. Yeah, The Big Leap is great. Daniel said just started the second book by David Goggins, never finished. Yeah, that was a solid book. I loved his first book. Second book is good. My biggest takeaway from his second book is, damn, he is really broken his body down. Like he's got the mentality, but like if you get to the parts, well, I don't want to ruin anything. You just started it. Never mind. I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop. But a big takeaway for me was how much he screwed up his body, but he's like trying to work through a lot of that now, which is awesome. To Boldly Go is good. I will check that out. I love book recommendations. If any of you have a recommendation on something I should read, or if it's something you want me to review, if it's more, fitness, health related, but I'm obviously open to anything. I love anything other than fiction. I'm not a big fiction guy, but I'll read anything nonfiction. Yeah, sorry, Daniel, I almost jumped in like book club here, ruining the book for you. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for attending. I'll probably cut it here. I had a great time doing the Q&A. Like I said, over this next quarter, you can expect to see me a lot more in the community. I want to get more involved, more live streams, more trainings, and also more training and more challenges. And we'll be announcing things that we're doing in 2024 with events and everything else, which I'm really excited about, trying to put that calendar together now. But thank you for everyone for attending. I'll end this stream here, and I'll see you all around the community. To the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.